Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Our Time with Scott Ryan. Today we have the coolest guest that there ever was, Jennifer Lynch. This was my first time meeting and talking with her, and it lived up to me waiting for this moment since 1990. She was super cool, and I am so excited to share this full interview with you. I got to speak with her to do like a 5-minute intro for Boxing Helena down in Dallas at the Music Box. Oh, how about that? It wasn't the Music Box. The Texas Theater. Music Box was in Chicago. Um, so I talked to her for Dallas, and yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. Why didn't he just redo it? I got things to do. I made a mistake. Here's a secret. I'm human. Plus, here's one of the things I've learned about these little things you put up on the internet. What people like most are the mistakes. That's what they like to say. It wasn't the Music Box. It was the Texas Theater. But Jennifer Lynch is super cool, and we talk about Boxing Helena and Sherilyn Fenn and all of that. And then we get into a little bit of Fire Walk with Me. And, speaking of, I have a book about Fire Walk with Me. You can get that at Tucker DS Press. So think about it. And of course, we spent some time talking about the Laura Palmer Diary. This is my original one that I got that summer, 1990. And the pages are a little bit coming out, which I love. I mean, is this a little bit? This might be a lot of it. But this is my original one that I passed around to my friends and, through the years. When I'd show them, I'd be like, you got to read this now. But I also then years later found a hardback at a used bookstore. And I love this one because the print is really big and I'm old now. So I like that I can actually read it. But of course you want to listen to Cheryl Lee read it for you on the audiobook, but that just breaks my heart. I can hardly do it because Cheryl Lee's so amazing. And Jennifer Lynch's words are incredible. So this is one of my favorite interviews ever because Jennifer Lynch is so cool. You're going to love this. Enjoy. Hello, my name is Scott Ryan, and I'm here today with Jennifer Lynch. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So back in 1993, I was working at a video store.
Okay.
I have kept all these years the advertisement from ordering Boxing Helena on VHS.
Wow.
It was $69.18 wholesale.
$69. God, you gotta love that. Wow.
I mean, how about that?
I hope you feel you got your money's worth. At least it was 69.
Yeah, I mean, at least. What is your feeling looking way back at the start of your career on Boxing Helena? It's always hard to watch your first work, but, how do you feel about it?
I feel it's funny that it's Mother's Day today. I feel maternal about it. I feel I love that movie. I love how I think I messed up because I didn't know certain things, or the choices I made, the things I'm glad I did, the things I wish I hadn't done, the things I really wanted to do that I didn't get to do. All of that, it's like looking at a photo album of my youth. You know what I mean? I had written that at 19, and there were so many years of trying to get it made that I think I experienced what felt like a lifetime in constructing it, and then ended up, of course, with Sherilyn Fenn, and have remained friends with her this whole time. And so it's really I feel pretty good about it. It's not a perfect film, Scott. Not a perfect film, but it's an obsessive love story for sure.
Well, I loved it. I had to drive, which was a big deal for me because I think I was 23 when it came out, and I had to drive
to the biggest town. I had to go up to Cleveland, which was like a big deal. I'm going to Cleveland, Ohio, because it was the only place I could see it, because I wanted to see this movie. I loved Sherilyn Fenn. I'd read the Laura Palmer Diary. I was a fan of yours. And I loved it the first night, but it didn't rock critics' world. Sitting here today, I mean, it's so obvious why it didn't. You sent this beacon out for the Me Too movement, how women are treated, all the things that there were no way men were going to listen to in the 90s.
Yeah.
How do you feel this movie would be accepted had it come out in 2018, 2017? Do you think it still would have upset the apple cart, or would people in pussy hats be ready for that movie?
I think people in pussy hats would be a lot more ready. I think people watching the pussy hat parade would be a lot more ready. But yeah, it's so funny because it is about objectifying someone and knowing how bad that is, but doing it anyway. And that's exactly what we're doing as a society is, we're sort of going, yeah, I know, but we're still doing it. And it's very interesting. I think it'd be very differently received now. I still think it's an imperfect film, and critics would slam me, but only because it's not a perfectly made film, not because of the subject matter.
Well, I'm not going to let that one go, but I want to, because you've said a couple times now that it's not perfect, and what film is perfect? I'm going to go with almost none. Okay, like maybe Broadcast News, and then that's the end of the list. But what moved me, I saw it last year because it played in Chicago, and I've seen it a bunch of times, but that was the first time I'd seen it in a theater since it came out. And what got me was the gender swapping. So Julian's character is very feminine, really, totally submissive and, apologetic. Sherilyn is the aggressor. She is not a nice person, and she has no redeeming qualities. I mean, we love Sherilyn Fenn. Let's just say Helena has no redeeming qualities. And that gender swap, I think that is something people couldn't take in the 90s. Was that something that you set down to do when you wrote it?
It was something I set down to do in order to define the characters, but not as any sort of a statement. I do think that the sort of fairy tale I was creating only worked because the victim was stronger than the perpetrator. And so in that you were okay with her maybe losing things just enough to let it keep playing, so that you could see that he had this dream in an effort not to hurt her in real life, so I don't know, does that answer the question?
Well, yeah, it does. And I mean, I think Sherilyn Fenn, obviously, we are just drawn to her. It comes from her. But you had to really she's the villain of the movie, which is kind of funny because I don't think people got that back then.
No.
What kind of direction did you have to give her to not make her lovable? Because we want to love Sherilyn.
Sherilyn is a great actress. You know what I mean? Like that is, and that she went through some really tough moments being in that box, some real tough moments. And I have to say that she always, on action, gained Helena's spine and her facade, and that sort of bitch Snow White against Julian's, femme Prince Charming.
Give me my purse.
I know I'm late.
Just
I'm
give
sorry.
it to me.
I'll get you on another flight. I know this thing is...
Do you realize that I sat at that fucking gate waiting over an hour for you? I asked you to do me a simple favor. Where's my address book?
And it was quite something to see, because she is incredibly hard not to adore. You know what I mean? It's just sort of by nature. Yes. So, I thought my work would be, much more difficult, but she's just that good. She is able to, she's able to strip herself of things in a way that not a lot of actors can do, which I find interesting.
So you've said a couple of times it's not perfect. To you, what about it is not perfect? I mean, I don't want to lean on the negative, because I like to lift art up, but you keep bringing it up, so I can't let it pass.
You do. You're taking my self-deprecation and showing it to me, Scott.
I know, but you're forcing me to, because I don't see it that way. I mean, you were how old were you?
I was 19 when I wrote it, and 23 when it came out.
I mean, that in itself is an amazing directorial debut. It's incredible what you accomplished. You didn't start off on like some sappy love story or something. You asked for this huge thing. So to you, not technology wise, because you have to stay there. Of course, you might do things different now, technology, but why is it not perfect?
Boy, I should pay you $350.
I'll take 175.
You're very kind. I think that I consider it imperfect because it so completely represents everything I could possibly give it at that time, within an NC-17 rating. And that I think of myself as having made maybe some imperfect decisions about it, but I say that because I think I am imperfect. I mean, I know I'm imperfect, but it's all self-deprecation. So that's why I offer you the therapist rate.
All right. Well, if it's that way, then I'll accept it. But if you let idiot critics slip into it, then that's what I wanted to fight with you about, because I can't abide by. But if it's your growth that makes it imperfect, then I will accept that answer.
Well, I don't want to hide behind my growth. I mean, I'm very interested in what you would have to say about some of the things the critics said. I did not think it was a misogynistic film. I thought it was something else entirely, but I did get a lot of that. And I think that saying that it's a misogynistic film is like saying that strip clubs are misogynistic. Of course they are. Of course, and what film in many ways is not. So it's very sort of interesting. The critics blew my mind. They just didn't know what to do with it.
Well, I set it up that way. To me, it was you were sending out a signal that was so far ahead of its time. And like, I'm not even talking like Casablanca has to catch up, or It's a Wonderful Life, and you go through and, audiences just weren't ready for that kind of plot. You were like saying, hey, I see something. I see how women are treated. And you also make it a white professional that's doing that, and people are like, nah, like nobody was ready to hear that. Like you were just sounding all of these bells ahead of time.
Well, I appreciate you finding that in there.
I mean, I wasn't that smart. I was a 23-year-old idiot, and it came through to me. I remember being in the theater and laughing out loud at the end credits. When you have I Can't Make You Love Me. And I was the only one. I just laughed.
Oh, good.
What a perfect end credit song. I'm just curious when you came up with that idea, and if you had trouble getting the rights. It's not Bonnie Raitt, but it shouldn't.
It's not Bonnie Raitt, but it is the Nelsons. Ricky Nelson's twins sing that, which is another piece of pop culture news. And that came about in the pre-production stages of making the film. One of the many times we tried to make the film, but that was with it. The second I got with Carl Mazzacone and decided we were going to make a film.
It's so funny.
Right? I mean, just, because like you can't.
Well, and that song was super popular then
Uh-huh.
anyway. And then of course there's another gender switch, which even at the time I thought was incredible. It just drives me crazy that this doesn't have a Blu-ray release, and like we struggled to even screen it here. I mean, what is it like to, because I always think about this, like as an artist, what is it like for you to not own your work and you to not have that work out there? I'm sure you want this movie to be played everywhere and be seen, and you know what I mean? You have no control over it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and a part of me doesn't want the movie to be played just because it's basically pictures of me naked. But there's a great big part of me that wants every film to be, played. And I don't think we watch enough films. I think we need more channels with films. It's weird. It feels like it, once I let it go, I knew I was making something that had so much press in advance of its opening with the trial and all of that, that it was like my kid may go to school, already labeled different because they've heard about this kid who's coming to school. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how subtle the difference is or what the difference is, they're just going to be different, period. And a lot of people had made up their mind they were not going to like it, or, not see it as a sort of an obsessive love or weird visual poem or what have you. But it's not owning it, I guess, is scary. It's like not owning, naked pictures of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I'd love it if people saw it and talked about it. I'd love it if filmmakers became more interested in film if they saw it. I'd love it if people were less intimidated to pick up a camera.
What does it mean to you for the film to be screened at a film fest with your dad's name on it? All your dad's films are going to play, and then one night we're going to watch your film with Sherilyn. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I wish you guys were showing Surveillance and Chained too. Because those are two of my films I'm also especially proud of. But it means the world to me to be under the umbrella of the Lynch film name. It's incredible. I was just talking to him this morning, and I think that it's it brings me great joy to be a part of it. And we're vastly different filmmakers, but I feel like the bravery I can sometimes encounter comes absolutely from my father.
Tell us a little bit about Julian. We're all, it seems there's not going to be a lot of positive news at this point, but can you share a story about Julian?
Julian, you brought up how effeminate, Nick's character is. And I remember specifically saying to Julian, you have to lose your balls. If you have balls, it changes the nature of what we're doing here. So you have to almost be the victim while you're causing this horrible thing to happen. I mean, it's got to balance itself out. Because he was coming, when Helena walks away from him right before she gets hit by the car and loses her legs, he was running after her shouting, Helena. And I remember the beautiful desperation and strength in it. And I just went, I'll never be okay with him doing what he does. And I went up and I said, you've got to make it, it's just got to be silly. I've got to hear it like it's a whine. Like when someone you don't like gives you flowers, oh, thanks. Like I've got to hear it the way she hears it so that I'm okay with what happens. And I think it was hard for him. He in fact was famous for running around set naked at one point, I think, just to show his masculinity.
To prove he had balls. That was on
balls.
you.
And I can attest to the fact that he did have balls. Yes, so but I'm hoping, always for a miracle. And Julian is an exceptional talent, and on top of that, an exceptional human being, like really, really neat human being who everybody would be better for if they had dinner with. So yeah, I'm wishing his family only the best.
The scene in the movie where Sherilyn gets in the fountain, she is so beautiful. And I will be asking her what it's like to have someone direct you and make you look that beautiful. But to you, you had to show us what Nick sees when he sees Helena. How do you make someone who's beautiful even more beautiful? Like, do you remember lighting that scene or what you had to do to make that?
I do. I remember that we were all standing in about 2.5 inches of mud. It had rained, torrential rain that day. And so for that whole sequence, we were standing in mud, and Sherilyn came out looking, beautiful and fresh. And it was not as simple as, but as pure as looking at a beautiful woman. And I made sure the camera was doing what someone in deep wanting would be doing, as far as where their eyes went, what mattered, when it was safe to look at her face as if she might love you. All of these sort of like choices in things to look at, because in that she is that woman you want but cannot have.
It's I think it's the most beautiful shot in the film, and it's incredible. Tell us something about Sherilyn Fenn.
She has a really good, goofy sense of humor, and I have peed in my pants laughing with Sherilyn.
Well, I'll be sure that I'm prepared.
Yes, please watch yourself, because
yes,
she's a lovely human being. She's a great mom. She's a lovely human being, and I wish I saw more of her. But I know the reason I made Boxing Helena with her was because there was no other way to do it. And I'm so grateful for the relationship that we still have.
Yeah, I know famously, of course, other actresses were attached to the film.
Yes, we went through them.
Yeah, but there's no one that was going to be Helena but her.
Yeah, no, it was it was going to be a whole different thing. And that's what's beautiful too about, making films and telling stories is ultimately you end up with the footage you end up with, and you have to listen to that footage and put it together and tell your story. And that's from writing to that is a real amazing experience. And hopefully, it seems you appreciated it, so it makes it all more worthwhile.
Oh, thank you. And I know I'm not the only one. The other thing that I've had my entire life is this is an original. The pages are actually falling out. This is the one I bought the day that it came. I mean, I do have the hard copy as well.
Amazing.
Which is hard to come by.
It is very hard to come by. Trust me, I gave away my last hard copy.
What? Too?
to someone who desperately wanted to read the book. And I was so thrilled anybody wanted to read the book that I gave them the book.
No, everyone's reading the Laura Palmer diary, but when we, I have a question that could be controversial, but I don't mean it to be. I don't want to take away anything from anyone. I want to add to. So I'm just laying that out. But I was thinking about this. I'm not taking one thing away from Mark Frost or David Lynch. They, of course, created Laura Palmer, the cadaver, but I think you created Laura Palmer, the alive person, the person that we know as Laura Palmer. You get to create her. And then, of course, that becomes Fire Walk with Me. I'm curious what kind of ownership in the best way, not in the greedy way, but in the best way, what ownership do you feel of the character of Laura Palmer?
It's so funny. It's the reason I'm credited the way I am in the book. I didn't want to say written by because I believe Laura wrote it. I said as seen by, because I feel like I sat with Laura and she told me about her life and I got to write it down. And she is absolutely, when I was, I guess around 12 years old, my father picked me up from school and I forget the question he asked me, but it was about something that I wanted. And I said, I wanted to find someone else's diary walking home from school because I would race home and read it to see if they had the same fears and fantasies and trials and wins as I had. Because I was so curious to know where I was on the graph of, is this normal? Is this not normal? And so, I feel like all my life I was sort of writing Laura's diary and that I was, trying to live the life of many, many girls who might drop their journal. But, it was, there's only 2 moments that are actually from my life, but I will never, ever say what they are.
I don't blame you.
But
I can understand keeping that private. What is your feelings on the film Fire Walk with Me, which, I actually wrote a book about Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, nice.
I
love Fire Walk with Me.
I'll send you a copy if you're interested.
I would be very interested. Yes.
And I got to interview Sheryl Lee. The whole book kind of rolls to my interview with Sheryl Lee, which she meant so much to me. And I was never disappointed in it because I had read the diary. Like
right.
I read the diary the day it came out and I watched Twin Peaks as it went. And so when I went to see Fire Walk with Me, to me, it's the Laura that exists in your diary that we see. How was it for you to see Fire Walk with Me where like you had written this? I mean, and then now you kind of see it come to life in what Sheryl Lee did.
Yeah, I guess, you're doing it to me again, Scott.
This is another $350. I don't know if I said that. We're up to 700.
Shit. Shit. Not that you're not worth it.
No, yeah.
But I don't know that I ever looked at it as my father doing something I had written. But I love that movie. And I love Laura. And I think it's, one of my father's best films, and yet not really talked about the way the others are. And I wonder if that's because it's about child sexual abuse or, incest or, directly drugs. But like his films deal with so many different subject matters, but this one in particular seemed to be either misunderstood or unliked in ways that the others didn't. And it always sort of struck me as interesting. Don't know why.
Do you remember how you saw it the first time? Did he show you a cut ahead of time? I mean,
I saw Yeah, I saw a screening of it. I don't know how far ahead of time, but before it was released, obviously. And I think it made me cry. Um, but you know, it's like with the Elephant Man. When the Elephant Man dies, I cry. When Laura dies, I cry. You know, my father has a way with death that is hypnotic, and I think grabs you by the short and curlies and the heart at the same time. And so I remember being very deeply affected by it and thinking, what a wonderful, brave performance Cheryl Lee gave. You know, just riveting and again, really brave and thoughtful. So yeah, no, you know, I was a fan from the start, but I never actually looked at it like, oh, this is Dad's interpretation of something I helped create.
And it's not even just me saying it. Cheryl Lee says she used your diary to create that thing. Like, she would go through that. It meant so much to her. She kept going back to that. And I think for those of us who love Laura Palmer for who she is, there is no separation between the diary and Fire Walk with Me. They go hand in hand.
Oh, good. Well, that's really nice to hear. That's really nice to hear. Hopefully you can see the pilot for Twin Peaks, then Fire Walk with Me, then read the book, and all, you know, sort of have a full picture of everything, you know.
Well, when I show Twin Peaks to people, I have rules. Like, I give them the diary at a certain point. You have to read it at that point before you watch the next episode. You got to do
interesting. Interesting.
I don't fool around with my Twin Peaks.
And you apparently not. What point do they read the diary?
You have to read it when Donna finds it in Harold Smith's episode. Like, that's when you should really read it. Now, it actually came out between episodes 7 and 8, but I don't think you should read it there. That's when I read it, but I like to read it, which I think ends episode 10. I'm not 100% sure, but it's right around there. And then you read the diary.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. I like your style.
Well, you know, I've got rules for everything. But I'm just love the Laura Palmer you created. And then Cheryl Lee, of course, did the audio book as well. That had to be very exciting for you that it finally came out on audio. Very
exciting. And I'm just so pleased for her. You know what I mean? I feel like, again, she was able to fulfill that character completely. And I just got a huge kick out of that.
So when we're showing every one of your dad's films throughout this thing, I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite because that's ridiculous. Your favorite Lynch film changes with time. But today, what would be the film, if they were all playing, you'd walk into that screening because that's the film you'd want to see?
Today, Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet, why?
I'm in a sunny, woodsy mood.
I love it. So I just want to thank you so much for this interview and the time and all your work. And I think we set a record for saying pussy the most times in an interview.
Pussy! But now we broke it again.
I'm not going to top that ending.
Thank you for having me, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, we appreciate you. And everyone should know that if it wasn't for you giving us the approval for this, we would not have been able to do it. So thank you for letting us show the movie.
It would not be happening if it hadn't occurred to you and you were thoughtful enough to ask. So I really appreciate it. And please enjoy Sherilyn's company. She's lovely.
Are you now in love with Jennifer Lynch, like me? I mean, I keep waiting for her to be like, Scott, we're going to be best friends now. I need you to come along with me. And then all her friends will be like, you're pretty cool. What do you got this nerd over here for? And she'll be like, oh, he's there to fluff me up when I need built up. And then I'll right away be like, you're a great director, you're a great writer, you're the coolest person ever. That'd be my new job. Is that too much to ask for? I don't think so. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. I have a bunch of other interviews that I did throughout that time down in Dallas that I'll be posting. And please go out to tuckerdspress.com. You can get my Fire Walk with Me book or my Lost Highway book. I have a new book coming out called The Last Decade of Cinema. That's all about 90s films. And also, I just realized I don't have my good mic on this whole time. I mean, do I even care about It's Our Time with Scott Ryan? I mean, where is the dedication? As David Letterman said, we'll start working on this show once you start watching it. Also, we have Greg Olson's new book called Black Coffee Lightning. It's up for pre-order. It's all about season 3, Twin Peaks: The Return. That comes out Twin Peaks Day. That's going to be, I mean, it is a lot. Like, this is going to be the definitive Twin Peaks book for The Return. Like, it's deep dive. It is so many pages. It is crazy. You guys are going to love it, so you can pick that up. And as always, Laura's Ghost by Courtney Stallings, Women of Lynch. We got your Lynch fix here, okay? Don't judge by, me wearing an Arrested Development t-shirt and forgetting to hook up my good mic. That's not why we're judging here. It's the spreading of the word of Lynch. Thanks, everyone. Have a great time, and that's our time.